Good evening and welcome to the October 1st, 2024 regular session of Findlay City Council. We'll start this evening's meeting with roll call.
Mr. Ballman?
Here.
Mr. DeArmond?
Here.
Ms. Frischi?
Here.
Mr. Greeno?
Here.
Mr. Hellman?
Here.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Russell?
Here.
Ms. Warnicki?
Here.
And Mr. Wobser.
Present.
So at this time, I call up three local Boy Scouts, Jamie Schultz, Mac Hudson, and Timothy Haynes. They are with Troop 312. They are here tonight with to hopefully earn their communication merit badge, and I'd like to invite them up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. So come on up and go down the front, guys, and all right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve the previous city council minutes. Mr. Palmer,
So moved.
second Mr. DeArmond. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting those, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. They are accepted. Mr. Russell, do we have any add-ons, replacements, or removals from tonight's agenda?
Yes, sir. We have an add-on letter concerning the Raynick investigation and remediation summary. And I move that letter be added to the reports of municipal officers and municipal departments, and also a replacement for Resolution 029-2024 as amended. Just a change in some section headings and a minor change in the dollar amount of the allocations. And I move that resolution as amended be replaced.
Second Mr. Palmer. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor that the items as described are added or replaced tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. They are accepted. We have no proclamations. We have no recognition or retirement resolutions. We have 3 petitions and a zoning amendment request tonight.
Petition for annexation for 6434 on County Road 18, known as the Weaver annexation for 1.480 acres of land in Marion Township.
Questions or comments? This will be referred, referred to the law director for resolution and services legislation.
Petition for annexation for County Road 212, known as the Cole annexation for 48.987 acres in the Allen Township.
This also, any questions or comments? This also be referred to the law director.
A petition for annexation for County Road 212, Township Road 99, known as the Voorhees annexation for 160.429 in Allen and Marion Townships.
Questions or comments? This also will be referred to the law director. Sorry, Mayor?
I just want to make one note here. These are each petitions that came out of the annexation process that we had rolled out. These were each properties that had requested to be annexed as part of that process. There are a number of other properties that have also requested that we're working through the paperwork. Phil Rooney is leading that process for us. So you will see a number of other annexations coming forward. Again, those were all properties that were requested by the property owners to be included in this annexation process.
Mr. DeArmond.
Is it related to a specific project or not necessarily?
No.
Okay.
Some of they're all kind of just little
Okay.
cleanup pockets. The Weaver property is kind of a cleanup property. The County Road 212 is a property that is along that corridor and thinks it's more advantageous to be in the city. And same with the Voorhees property.
Okay.
The other ones are more residential and kind of throughout town, as well as then I think we have a couple of those kind of island properties coming in.
Mr. Wobson.
So, Mayor, this was part of the process that you went through, almost a year ago, when we went through that asking
Correct.
for, okay, very good. That's what I thought. Thank you.
That also would be referred to the law director.
A zoning amendment for 0 Glessner Avenue for parcel number 560001008484 to change the zoning from I-1 light industrial to CD condominium.
Questions or comments? This will be referred to the City Planning Commission and the Planning and Zoning Committee. We have one oral communication that will be this evening under new business. We have no written communications. Reports of municipal officers and departments.
Officer shareholders disclosure form from the Ohio Department of Commerce Division of Liquor Control for Whitson Hotel Operations LLC, doing business as Hilton Garden Inn, located at 1050 Interstate Drive W, for feet D5A and D6 liquor permits. A check of the record showed no criminal record for those who applied.
Mr. Palmer.
Move that no objection be filed.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor that no objection be filed, say aye. Aye. And opposed, nay. No objection will be filed.
Letter from Mayor Mern regarding appointment to Blanchard Valley Port Authority. This requires council's confirmation.
Mr. Russell.
Move to confirm the appointment of Mr. Sadowski.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion. Mr. Wobser.
Mayor, I know there was a lot of discussion around with this appointment. Did the Port Authority Board agree with your appointment?
I did not specifically request their feedback. However, they have worked with Mr. Sadowski, and I know a number of them are in support of his appointment, but I did not go ask the board for endorsement of Mr. Sadowski.
And this appointment, this is your appointment to make, correct?
Correct.
So it's your place to take care of? All right. I just know that originally there was some consternation from the Port Authority Board about this appointment. They had picked somebody. It wasn't Mr. Sadowski. Not that he's not a fine gentleman, has nothing to do with that. But just I wondered if there had been any discussion with them.
I did not discuss that specifically with them. I did speak with the candidate that they put forward, and he was actually fine with it, in support of Mr. Sadowski, and said he is just interested in getting involved in other boards as he gets re-engaged with the community. And I did not have, I know the chairman of the Port Authority, I did not hear from him on the appointment.
Other question, Ms. Frishy.
I guess the one question, I mean, I had that similar, so I'm glad Jeff covered that, but I guess would we consider that a conflict of interest since Mr. Sadowski is also on the Economic Development Board, since the Port Authority is a separate but works very closely with? And then who was the other candidate?
Mayor?
So Mike F., who is a banker in town and had been back. One of the reasons that I think Mr. Sadowski is actually a great candidate is because of his knowledge of economic development, the process, and because of his background as an attorney. And right now, previously Doug Huffman had served on the board for many years, and he rolled off and did not want to be reappointed, I think 2 years ago. And so I would like to put an attorney back on the board.
All those in favor of the appointment say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Mr. Sadowski is appointed.
Letter from City Engineer Calb regarding A1 hangar door repairs, project number 352-42200.
Questions or comments? Ms. Frishy?
Can we read this into the minutes since we're going to not follow the process, I believe is what it was, I'm going from memory.
What process are we not following?
The bidding process, sir.
Oh.
Can we have that read in? Can I have a second to have that read in?
Mr.
Thank
Wobser,
you.
all those in favor that this letter be read into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Please read this into the record.
The Findlay Airport is working to replace the existing hangar doors on hangar A1. When the airport sought for quotes to perform the replacement, it was found that only 2 companies in Ohio sell power-lift hydraulic hangar doors. Airport staff received quotes from the 2 companies, and it was determined that Metal Monkey Welding and Fabrication from Sugar Creek, Ohio, offered the most reasonable quote. As part of their quote, Metal Monkey will take care of everything from demo of the existing doors, replacement of necessary frames, and installation of the new doors. Due to the condition of the doors are restricted on how far they can be opened, which limits the size of aircraft that can be stored in the hangar. To ensure that we can get the doors replaced in a timely manner and the airport is not losing any additional revenue, it is desired to waive the formal bidding process and to enter into contracts with Metal Monkey Welding and Fabrication to replace the hangar doors. By copy of this letter, the law director is requested to prepare the necessary legislation to authorize the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer to waive all former advertising and bidding requirements and enter into contracts with Metal Monkey to replace the existing hangar doors. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.
Mr. Wobser.
Jeremy, the one thing, thank you for all the information on there. Any idea how much this thing's going to cost us?
Yeah, I realized that I didn't put that amount on there, but $98,500. $98,505, and we had $100,000 appropriated for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so between the two companies, the other company does not do demo, and they pretty much only do some framework and just installation of the doors. When you do framework and stuff like that, you get into the siding, soften, all that kind of stuff. Well, the Metal Monkey, they will do they will do the soffit, siding, frame, demo of the doors, and installation on the new doors. So that's why we chose Metal Monkey with that. And the power lift doors is just that's a niche market pretty much. There's not many in there. The power lift doors is actually one of the best brands out there for the hydraulic lift and the vertical lift type. So that's why, working with the airport, that's why they wanted to go with the power lift doors.
Okay. So this is kind of a niche market is what you're telling us also.
Yeah. You'll see a lot that are the horizontal doors that go,
Right.
but we're vertical, and that'll allow us for, with our type of space that we have, that will maximize our space that we have for our hangars and stuff.
Okay.
We have it on other doors at the Marathon hangar. Those are on there too. So it's not like it's a new brand that we're using out there. One of the specialties with what we really like with it, along with their space saving, is if the power goes down, we can hook up a hydraulics from a tractor and open the doors that way as well. So there's multiple capabilities with it, but searching through in Ohio, this is pretty much our closest ones and is a very good brand.
You're not going to want to buy a tractor next, are you?
It's all right there.
Okay. Just us.
Letter to be filed.
A letter from City Engineer Calb regarding Strict Center enhancements, project number 319-44900.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter or Immigration Task Force meeting minutes of August 21st, 2024.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed. Or minutes, I'm sorry.
Letter from City Engineer Calb regarding CSO long-term control amendment, project number, and I had it incorrectly on the agenda, but it's 356266200.
Questions or comments? Letter be filed.
Letter from City Engineer Calb regarding Howard Run ditch cleaning, project number 325-49500.
Questions or comments? Letter be filed.
Letter from City Engineer Calb regarding transfer of ARPA funds.
Questions or comments? Ms. Frishy?
Jeremy, this is the ordinance that you sent an email on for the ARPA transfer, and you said that this is gonna involve new projects, and we haven't discussed them yet. So I would make a motion to table this letter, because if we haven't met with appropriations yet to know what these future projects are, and I also noticed, there was a lot of different things going on that maybe we should be waiting. So am I allowed to make a motion to table that letter? That's a question for you.
Unless the legislation is
Yeah.
it'll go for 3 readings. Is there
But if
ample
I-
time to have a meeting in between that or answer all the questions that you might have?
Before
Mayor?
Well, I was going to say, before you make a formal motion,
They did make one, but okay.
well, this might be helpful, is that an appropriations committee meeting is scheduled or going to be called to be scheduled for next Tuesday. That was part of the conversation with Councilman Wobser, that can be called. But for timing and processing the ARPA money, it was requested that this be put on the agenda to get its first reading prior to that meeting being held.
Motion, okay?
So I had a motion to
second to it?
table, and whether it's the letter or the legislation, and next Tuesday does not work for me on appropriations. So I was not aware that you and Jeff were having conversations on that.
I'm sorry, your motion dies due to lack of a second. Any other questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Sorry, just making a note. And then the add-on Rainick investigation and remediation summary letters from Civil and Engineering Consultants, Inc.
Questions or comments? Ms. Frishy.
So just for comment, I had been asking for this for 2 months. I'm glad that Matt added it to the council packet as an add-on, so the public understands the Rainick property. The final test boring was in there. I've looked at some of it. There is chromium levels still in there. I don't know if that is to the standard for people and kids to play at that park once it's developed, so just for the record.
Mayor?
I would just note that yes, it is at safe levels and they met all of the compliance factors for park and open space requirements, which, to remind you all from that meeting that we had with Mike Kuhn Fair, they have to be able to eat dirt. So it'll be clean. And then as they are doing the benching work, additional clean topsoil will be brought into the area.
Letter to be filed. Hang on. Catch up. Committee reports.
The minutes of July 31st, 2024 for Water Sewer Committee meeting.
Mr. Russell.
Move that the minutes be accepted.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the minutes being accepted, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. They are included.
The Water and Sewer Committee met on September 18th, 2024 to discuss long-term control plan funding. We recommend an appropriation of $217,000 out of the sewer fund for phase 2 work on the long-term control plan.
Mr. Greeno.
Move for adoption of committee report from Water and Sewer Committee.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the committee report being adopted, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. It is adopted.
The Water and Sewer Committee met on September 18th, 2024 to discuss Howard Run Ditch maintenance funding. We recommend an allocation of $301,614 to cover assessment and maintenance costs inside the city limits, and an MOU be executed prior to transfer of funds.
Mr. DeArmond.
Move to accept the committee report.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion. Mr. Wobser. Ms. Frishy.
Just to confirm, I don't know that the committee addressed where they wanted the money to come from, if it was coming from the Emery Fort Findlay Playground allocation. I think that was the ARPA dollars or not, so just clarifying what the committee,
Mr. Russell.
what fund to come from.
There was existing legislation that got its first reading, and this simply changed the amount. The existing legislation said to pull ARPA funds to cover the Howard Run ditch.
Mr. Wobser.
Are we covering then 100% of the costs inside the city costs for this renovation?
Mr. Russell.
That is what we're trying to do, yes. And so we, Jeremy took the information from the Hancock County engineer, totaled up inside city limits, and that's why there's also a small reduction in cost. It's also covering the engineering, I think it's prorated engineering fees for the city, for inside the city.
Yeah, it covers the engineering, construction, and the 5% maintenance fee for that, for within the city limits.
Mr. Wobser.
Do we have any concerns with setting precedent on this of covering the costs?
Mr. Russell.
The committee did discuss that and where future funds would come from. The thing about precedents is that the future councils can always change it at their desire as they see as economic conditions might entail. I know that for Dazzle Ditch, we also did some funding for that, and the overriding factor for me, and I believe the rest of the committee thought so, is that ditches inside the city are in essence stormwater sewers without a pipe, and they serve the same function, and they should be the responsibility of the municipal government. The thing about the ditch is that it happens to go across governmental boundaries, and that is why it is handled in a unique manner with state legislation on how ditches are maintained. So we did discuss this in some detail, but thought it was the proper way to go.
Mr. Wobser?
And the last question I had on this, and I certainly appreciate that response on that, and it makes sense, and it actually kind of helps us with our ARPA dollars. We can get these not appropriated, but allocated per ARPA dollar rules, right, in amount of time before we have any issues with that.
Mr. Stashek?
No, the nice thing about this is whether it be soil and water or the county engineer, we get an invoice, we'll be able to cut a check, so the administration will just have to keep it moving, so we receive an invoice in a timely fashion. I would check out the money and we'll be good.
Very good, thank you.
Ms. Frisching?
Just to follow up on Jeff's statement, it was a good question about setting precedents, and there was discussion in that meeting, because we do have 1 or 2 ditches that are also sitting, oil ditch, and was there a second one about how those were gonna be handled too? So there was some discussion on that with other ditches that are sitting on the books.
Mr. Russell?
And a point of emphasis for the committee is that we are spending the money to cover the expenditures of the citizens within the city limits. So instead of them getting the bill for the maintenance of and for this project, that bill is in essence being paid for by the city of Findlay. It is not covering the cost for citizens who live outside of city limits. They have a responsibility for ditch maintenance and repair and all, and they still bear that liability. We are covering inside the city limits. We're restricting our coverage to inside the city limits.
Ms. Frisching?
And one more clarification, the same as Dazzle Ditch, after we did the initial payment to get the ditch clean, there is an assessment to each property tax card. It's minimal, $2 to $3, and that same thing will be happening for this ditch as well.
All those in favor of the committee report say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Committee report is adopted.
The Water and Sewer Committee met on September 18th, 2024 to discuss extending sanitary sewer to properties within city limits that are on a septic system. Continued. We recommend to continue by sending letters to identified property owners and continue to gather data.
Mr. Palmer?
Move to accept the committee report.
Second, Mr. DeArmond. Questions or comments? All those in favor of the committee report say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
The Water and Sewer Committee met on September 18th, 2024 to discuss policies and procedures for instituting utility billing rate changes. Continued. I don't know why I have that, but we recommend to clarify language in water rate review process document and incorporate into water rates and sewer rules.
Mr. Russell?
Move for acceptance of the committee report.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the committee report say aye. Any opposed, nay. Committee report is adopted.
The Water and Sewer Committee met on September 18th, 2024 to review rates for water, sewer, and/or storm water utilities. We recommend no rate changes to any utility in 2025.
Mr. Palmer?
Move to accept the committee report.
Second, Mr. DeArmond. Discussion? All those in favor of the committee report say aye. Any opposed, nay. Committee report is adopted. Did that meeting last, what, 2 hours or something? Legislation, we will start with resolutions.
Second reading for Resolution 28, 2024. A resolution stating what services the City of Findlay, Ohio will provide to the territory proposed to be annexed to the City of Findlay, Ohio, situated in Allen Township, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, and being a part of the northwest and southwest quarters of Section 31 and the northeast and southeast quarter of Section 36, Township 2 North, Range 11 East, a tract of land consisting of 21.724 acres of land more or less, hereinafter referred to as the County Road 220, 99 Sheets annexation.
Okay, next.
Second reading for amended or replacement resolution 2024 as amended. A resolution transferring funds within appropriated funds and declaring an emergency.
Okay, next.
First reading for resolution 30, 2024. A resolution stating what services the City of Findlay, Ohio will provide to territory proposed to be annexed to the City of Findlay, Ohio, situated in Marion Township, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, and being a part of the northwest quarter of Section 5, Township 1 North, Range 11 East, a tract of land consisting of 1.480 acres of land more or less, hereinafter referred to as the Weaver 6434 County Road 18 annexation. First reading for Resolution 31, 2024. A resolution stating what services the City of Findlay, Ohio will provide to the territory proposed to be annexed to the City of Findlay, Ohio, situated in Allen Township, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, and being a part of the southeast quarter of Section 31, Township 2 North, Range 11 East, a tract of land consisting of 48.987 acres of land more or less, hereinafter referred to as the Cole County Road 212 annexation. First reading for Resolution 32, 2024. A resolution stating what services the City of Findlay, Ohio will provide to the territory proposed to be annexed to the City of Findlay, Ohio, being the southeast quarter of Section 32, Township 2 North, Range 11 East, Allen Township, part of the northwest quarter of Section 4, and part of the northeast quarter of Section 5, Township 1 North, Range 11 East, Marion Township, County of Hancock, State of Ohio, a tract of land consisting of 160.429 acres of land more or less, of which 158.288 acres lie within Section 32, Allen Township, and 0.27 acres lie within Section 4, Marion Township, and 1.114 acres lie within Section 5, Marion Township, hereinafter referred to as the Voorhees, County Road 212, Township Road 99, annexation. Yeah.
Ordinances.
Second reading for, third reading for ordinance 2024-107. An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the City of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids and enter into contracts for the municipal building LED replacement Phase 2, project number 319-42700, appropriating funds thereto and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Hellman.
Move for approval of ordinance 2024-107.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion? All those in favor of the ordinance say aye. If your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
And Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2024-111. An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the City of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids where required and enter into contracts for construction of various projects in accordance with the 2024 department equipment list, appropriating and transferring funds for said capital expenditures and declaring an emergency. Second reading for ordinance 2024-112. An ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Russell.
Jim and Rob, did you get there were some concerns about how the funding, how this was written and funded. Are we all set with this legislation as presented? that's to either.
Well,
Go ahead.
I went and did some research, and I have ordinances back to 2008 that had the same language that is presented today, and we get our language from the deputy auditor on how to put it into legislation. So I felt very comfortable the way it was written and why we need it.
Mr. Stashek.
Short answer is no, but from my perspective, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other on this particular piece of legislation with regard to you're walking into a budget and pulling money from the general fund is something that you will be doing if you pull the money out of the airport fund to subsidize the airport in 2025. My point was simply that there could be an improvement in how this is looked at, irregardless how historically it's been done in the last couple of years. Because in reality, if you're selling fuel, you're making a profit, you're generating revenue, and there should be enough revenue to release those funds and move forward. But from my perspective, I don't want to stop this because you haven't done that. I want to make it and make you aware as a council that if they did sell that much fuel, that cash should be there and you should be able to move forward. We just have to go through the process of releasing the money through a recertification with the county like we do with tax. And I think it's a worthwhile process to keep your year-to-year operational budget look of the airport in front of you, especially with your year-end fuel purchases if you're moving fuel, but it's your call. So I wouldn't sweat it. I'd keep moving forward. I don't want to slow the airport down.
Mr. Russell.
Move the council statutory rules be suspended and ordinance 2024-112 be given its third reading.
Second, Mr. Baumann. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye. If your name is called, those opposed, nay.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Rules of council been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its third reading.
Ordinance 2024-112.
Mr. Palmer.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2024-112.
Second, Mr. Wobser. Discussion, Ms. Frishy.
Passing this, Rob, tonight and going forward, how often do we need to do this appropriation for fuel, for either type of fuel in a year? Question.
Mr. Martin.
Didn't want to interrupt if you had more to that. So, so to answer your question, part of the reason we have to do this, so in 2024, we budgeted about $612,000 for fuel. And it's both, right? And we run the numbers on per dollar and we forecast what that's going to be. And we're doing that again this year. Because of some of the competitive buying that we can do and some of the customer service and some of the improvements at the airport and word of mouth to the general aviation groups, we're selling more and more fuel, which is a good thing. We're supporting that industry, and it's a good situation that we're in. With that, though, to be competitive and buy when the market is right to actually gain a higher margin on your sale, they study the market. They analyze the fuel prices, and then they have to make that sale or that purchase quickly. To be able to do that, they'd ideally like to have a super PO that could blanket this entire purchasing process. But having discussions with the deputy auditor, her preference is to have multiple POs for each vendor so we can keep it fair, we can keep it equitable, and then that requires the additional dollars in different POs versus one. So it's a little convoluted. We've done this traditionally every year, about this time of year, and it traditionally
That's
once
what
a year.
so-
Yes, ma'am.
So we do it once, usually during this time of the year. I guess what I'm trying to get to, moving forward with this, and then with the auditor's idea of how to release money, which I have no idea what you're talking about. But if it saves us on the capital side, is this something that we can work through for 2025, that we can do this process a different way, or will it cause a problem with the bidding process to get competitive rates?
It's not going to cause a problem. And just an example, in 2023, we actually budgeted about $500,000 in fuel. Again, sold over that, had to come back and share the messaging, hey, we're having good sales, et cetera, et cetera. We're doing the same thing this year. And again, back to 2018, I have the legislation that actually shows that we've consistently done this. So I mean, we're gonna look at what the 25 and 26 revenue projections are gonna be based on fuel sales, and we'll go out and look at what the gas or fuel markets are gonna look like, and we'll make a best guess and a projection of a budget. And hopefully we sell it, and we might be back here to have this conversation again.
So that, I guess you're not maybe understanding my question. We do this tonight, get this done for this buy that we have to do above and beyond what we planned for. So next year, is there a way to do above and beyond purchase as the auditor is asking about releasing money and not having to pull from capital? Because I would like to not have to pull from capital if it is a doable process within the airport that doesn't hold up. That's my question for you. So I'm not telling you no. I'm going to vote yes to what you want,
Yeah.
but I want to know, can we work together better to save us from pulling money from capital?
So technically, it's general fund, not capital,
sorry.
number one, and for clarity. And the other is, I didn't know this was an issue because of past practice and we working with when we present legislation.
And I don't think it's an issue.
This is, legislation is vetted through the deputy auditor to make sure we get the proper accounts. So we're making sure things are done on the front end properly. So
And I'm
I
not
didn't
saying that you
realize this was
didn't.
an
I just
issue.
thought if there's a better way, if we have an option,
Yeah,
that's
I
all
will-
I'm asking. Can we
Ms.
work
yeah.
together for 2025 for a better
Have that
option?
conversation with deputy auditor to see if we can streamline it, if it's a
Let's
better way.
let Jim speak. I think he can answer all your questions.
Yeah, it'll be simple. When they turn in the monthly reports to our office, all the our airport supervisor will have to do is let us know where she's at in her process of acquiring fuel. And if she thinks she's gonna be short on her budget for moving forward and acquiring fuel based on the quantity of sales come August, September, October, she gives us a heads up. And then what I will do, not the deputy auditor, I will adjust those figures, submit them to the county, get the certificate back, and then the legislation will be a combined appropriation to the airport fund of those monies that we made selling that fuel and an expenditure appropriation for purchase of new fuel. So it's a very simple process. All we need to do is be informed ahead of time that they're anticipating fuel purchases within the next few weeks. And I can get a certificate over to the county auditor in a couple of days.
Clerk, a note from our Denise. If you look on the ordinance, section 1, that states that the following sums be and the same are hereby appropriated. And if you look at the heading of the ordinance, appropriating and transferring. So we need to amend this accordingly per our law director and Denise, and I have nothing to do with it. Mr. Wobser.
Do you need a motion for that amendment? I make a motion to amend it as per the president's comments.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Russell, all in favor of the amendment being that the following sums be and the same are hereby appropriated and transferred, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Or do I have to do a roll call on
We usually do, but.
it? I'm sorry, we have to do a roll call on that. All those in favor say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
This is to amend it. Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
And Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
The ordinance is amended. Now I will take a motion to approve as amended. Mr. Wobser?
Make a motion to approve as amended.
Second, Ms. Frishy. Discussion, and hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance as amended, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted as amended.
First reading for ordinance 2024-113, an ordinance vacating a certain portion of a certain alley hereinafter referred to as the Bank Street vacation in the city of Findlay, Ohio. First reading for ordinance 2024-114, an ordinance amending chapter 1100 et sec of the codified ordinances of the city of Findlay, Ohio, known as a zoning code, by rezoning the following described property referred to as 615 East Edgar Avenue rezone, which previously was zoned R2 medium lot residential to R3 small lot residential. First reading for ordinance 2024-115, an ordinance vacating a certain portion of a certain alley hereinafter referred to as the undeveloped portion of West Sandusky Street vacation in the city of Findlay, Ohio. First reading for ordinance 2024-116, an ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to waive formal advertising and bidding and enter into contracts with Metal Monkey Welding and Fabrication for the replacement of existing hangar doors on Hangar A1 at the city of Findlay Airport and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Russell.
Jeremy, what's the timing on this? Is there a pressing need to have this done, or can it go one more reading and add some language putting dollar amounts in it?
We can probably go one more. I mean, really, we're coming down to weather. I mean, it could be nice. It could turn to snow. Who knows? But if we can go one more, I'm fine with that. You know, we'll get amended with a dollar amount in there.
Jeremy, if it snows in October,
It's happened.
We're gonna have
It's
words.
happened.
First reading for ordinance 2024-117, an ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Russell.
Move that council statutory rules be suspended in this ordinance, in ordinance 2024-117 be given its second and third reading.
Second, Mr. Ballman. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
And Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Rules of council been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2024-117, ordinance 2024-117.
Mr. Russell.
Move for adoption of ordinance 2024-117.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion. Mr. Russell.
Just like to thank Gene Stevens family for this donation. The Strick Center really did secure a lot of funding from individuals from a lot of different sources because it is a good project, and it'll have an impact not just on the citizens or on the city fire personnel, but countywide. And I think the Stevens family saw that and recognized that, and I'm very appreciative of their support for our first responders.
Personally, knowing Gene and his family, he was one heck of a guy. Ms. Mayor.
I would just add, talking about donations to the Strick Center, this is certainly wonderful, and the Stevens family is great, and I know Elaine was able to join us with her children at the ribbon cutting. I would just note on that project, we had gifts from $100,000 from individuals in our communities down to people walking in and donating $50, and I think that is just a great community project.
Yep. Ready to adopt.
All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
And Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2024-118, an ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2024-119, an ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids where required and enter into contracts in order to transfer and utilize American Rescue Plan Act, hereinafter referred to as ARPA, funds on additional projects, appropriating and transferring funds thereto, and declaring an emergency. That's it.
Rob, about a month or month and a half ago, I think Councilman Palmer had asked about food truck ordinances and getting some things figured out. I've had two folks reach out to me regarding where we are with food trucks licensing and all of that stuff. Is there a committee forming, or where are we at?
Currently, we have different stakeholders in the administration, from fire, zoning, income tax, and other groups administration that are actually pulling their relevant information together. We're looking at our whole process from our current solicitor license process, peddlers, et cetera, seeing if we can streamline it, because there isn't even a license that actually says food truck. So falls under one of those categories. So we're looking at the whole process, looking at other communities like Columbus, Toledo, Lucas County that actually has a streamlined process, so we can hardwire it. Actually had a conversation with the police chief this morning about our current background check process versus if there's a way he'd rather do it differently. So we're looking to go to a stickered model so we can identify it if they're licensed in the city versus having to go ask them, so it's more visual so we can enforce it more efficiently. Health department's involved obviously because of those things that they have to be involved in. But this is an evolving industry that 5-6 years ago we didn't have what was going on. So some of the things that are happening, we want to make sure we're in front of it. So to answer your question shortly, we are working on this. I'm hoping to have some draft package that we can bring to you and we can actually have a further discussion.
Are you hoping for that before budget? I guess they're
No.
these people are kind of looking for some direction, being treated the same. Some people are getting the $10 permits, some are not. There's a lot of territorial turf, I think, is what's going on, which I get it, but I think they deserve to they want to be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
So
Our process, if we can get this hardwired before the end of the year, I'd like to roll it out in 2025. But the dollar amount for licensing and permits and things like that, I don't anticipate those changing. It might just be how it's the algorithm of what it's called and how it goes through the process.
and then the enforcement of it.
Correct.
Mr. Wobser.
Rob, you kind of answered the question I had, which was, can we suspend approval of any further licenses until this process is put into place? So we don't give out any licenses are they on an annual basis?
They are on an annual
Calendar?
basis, and they typically start in February, March as you get into spring, and there's seasons where it's a transient population. We have our locals, obviously, that are pretty committed, but we have a transient group that come in as well, and they typically come in the spring before the weather is more beneficial for them to be outside. So we're
Right.
looking to hardwire that on the in front of 2025.
Yeah, I know most of the guys right now after Oktoberfest are starting to get ready to shut down for
Correct.
the season. But I guess I just want to make sure that we've got this new, well thought out process in place prior to reissuing for whatever the next season is.
That is the goal.
Okay.
So before February.
We are working diligently to have this done so it's clean for 2025.
Would it be helpful for a council committee to be formed to help you reach your goal?
We're
I
still.
guess I'm just trying to help the citizens out, and I feel like we've been sitting on it probably 2 months now. I don't want to say sitting. You're gathering information, but sometimes it's helpful to get some recommendations and get some things going, just so they have direction before it's last minute.
We actually get a lot of feedback from the food truck vendors themselves that come in and have these conversations, as well as with our fire inspectors that go out and actually talk to them. So we're getting that feedback as well. They want a consistent process. They share that messaging with us. We're getting feedback from them. So we're working through this, and obviously we want to look at how we got here so we can move forward the proper way. So,
Rob, I would just say that if we get to the point where we don't have your process fleshed out yet, I would like to suspend any licenses until we get this new process in place. This is all the things that you said are spot on. The folks that I've talked to, it's more of a competitive issue because people come in town without a license can operate because we don't have the enforcement in place yet. So I want to make sure we've got that taken care of before we give out any licenses.
Mayor.
Councilwoman
We're
Frishy and I are
agreeing
agreeing.
on something. I'll let you take it.
No, so I would not be in favor of delaying people's ability to have their livelihood. We're not really trying to prevent people from being able to operate food trucks. And to be very clear, we are enforcing if we are notified. It's just hard to. And so the thing is, that's why we're going to the visual ticket. We're making sure that there's better communication because sometimes we'll have people come in and register with our office, and we asked them for certain documentation, and they said, yes, I've gotten that from the health department, and we say, okay, well, hold this, but you can't operate until we receive it from the health department, and then we find out, that next day they were operating and they didn't have it yet. So those are the things that we're cleaning up. We're not seeing wide abuse of it. We are seeing, because people want to come in and serve our market, they're coming in, throwing, their spot up in a parking lot that they don't have permission to be in, they shouldn't be in, and nobody calls to tell us, and we can't go out and have an officer hit them. So that's why we are just trying to clean it up, make sure it's very clear, and have very clear penalties when you are not compliant. So that's why we're working with the different departments. As we gather that information, we will set a target for early December to have a package to bring to you all for feedback with the goal of February. But right now, we really feel like it is, because all of the pieces right now are administrative functions, so those departments need to tell us the best way to handle it.
Other old business, new business. Mayor, you have any? No, we'll do it after you're done.
Really, there's two things I want to hit on. First is I want to recognize Chuck Younger, who passed away over the weekend. Obviously, I think we all had interacted with Chuck and Marianne over the years, and they were really influential people in our community, both as community leaders and giving back. And so he was a great friend and mentor to me and an encourager to many in this room. And so I just want to give him a shout out because he will definitely be missed. The next thing I just want to hit on is I know obviously immigration continues to be a top subject in our community. And I know that there is still continued communication that needs to occur, and we're still trying to gather information and wrap our arms around the issue. And I just want to share a couple of things. And I know you guys are probably getting tired of hearing me say them because hopefully it's been a pretty consistent message. But I think as mayor and as city council members, there are issues that we have the ability to influence. There are abilities that we get to, or issues that we get to control. This is an issue that has come to our community that is outside of our control. And so I think I just want to clarify a couple things. First and foremost, as I continue to say, federal immigration policy needs fixed. I am all for immigration and good policy and good process. And, the folks that are coming in and they're getting federal status that is legal, which then puts us in a position where there's not anything that I can do. I can't go up and say, hey, you need to get out of here. That's not how our country works, and that's not the position we're in. And so as mayor, responsible for our community and keeping people safe and setting a vision and doing all the things that we do, I have to figure out what are the elements that we can control. And we have taken the approach, and I'm open to feedback, and I hear from people a lot, is how do we mitigate the impact to our community, and how do we help these people be productive members of our society and assimilated as quickly as possible so that they aren't a burden. I wish I had more easy answers. I wish that this wasn't a problem that was on our doorstep, but it's the reality that we are now in. And people are coming to the United States. They're coming to Ohio. I can't speak specifically, and I know I've said many times, we are not bringing them here. We are not recruiting them. And I know folks disagree. I'm just telling you the truth that I have. And we are continuing. So I want people to know this. Our community is doing what we can to address it and make sure people are safe, whether that is education on traffic enforcement, making sure that our officers are paying attention. I am aware of allegations against one of the staffing agencies on human trafficking. That is simply an allegation. We have not had any red flags raised in our community other than the fact that they are living in, in bad conditions, but that's the housing that is available. So we're working through it. And I've been in touch with, I haven't spoke with Senator Vance. I haven't heard from Congressman Latta recently. I haven't heard from many of our elected officials recently on this issue, but Governor DeWine is certainly aware, and I've been talking to him for quite a while, and he understands the frustration that we're seeing. You know, when people are calling me and saying, how can I help? The thing I'm telling them is to, first and foremost, talk to your legislatures at the federal level, because they control this issue. And then the second is, you know, we'll figure out if there are volunteers that are needed. I know conversation partners are being utilized for the English as a second language classes. And then we're figuring out, again, what resources at the state or federal level are out there to help offset some of our local costs. I don't like having to do that, but I also don't like our local resources being used for something, again, that we don't control. So I'll continue to share. We did put a website up that has some of the information related to our efforts and how we're addressing this. I'm talking to the healthcare system and public health and the schools on a regular basis. Those are probably the three most impacted entities. As I'm talking to our nonprofits, they're really, they're not seeing a huge utilization of their services. When they are seeing utilization, really the burden is just the translation and helping them navigate our system. So we're working on a number of things, but I just wanted to continue to update you all on that. And again, we're not seeing an increase in crime. We were going to have the chief here talking about a couple things, but we're not seeing any issues with our staff. I know there have been a couple of, there's one issue of a gentleman that has some allegations against him. Again, he's working through the process. He's not yet been convicted of a crime, so I can't speak to that situation. But I am not overall concerned for our community safety. I do know that there are concerns with going to some of the grocery stores and feeling uncomfortable with different things. So we're also trying to do some education around cultural differences and not, you know, following or not congregating in areas where it's not typical. So we'll work through it.
Mr. Stashak. Sorry, is this comment to the mayor, or is this under new business?
This comment is tangential to the conversation in the meeting we just had, and I appreciate the opportunity to do the combined mid-year review and budget meeting, but I shared with you, I think it would be naive to say that this issue is limited to those components, because what I want to encourage you as a council to consider, where you do have some control in your community as to how your community develops, is if you continue to develop ground with jobs that people aren't interested in filling, and companies spend millions and millions of dollars investing in that ground to put a company in, they are going to find the labor they need to fill those jobs, irregardless of whether those jobs are above or below the average wage in this state. And you do that through your zoning and your initiatives and your strategic planning. You do have an ability to impact what's happening in our community over time and what our community looks like. Silicon Valley got its name because they developed it that way. It was intentional. We have the opportunity to do that as well, but we can't say this is just going to happen. And if we just willy-nilly put in jobs that are less than $20 an hour, and our people don't want to get up and fill those jobs, then those companies are going to have to do something to protect their investment. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but what I'm saying is you do have the ability to control what type of development happens in your community to some, if not a major extent. And I would encourage you to think about that more as council members, irregardless of the political aspects of this. There is an economic aspect, and you have a role in it.
Mayor.
I always love talking about economics. That's what my degree's in. So I always love, let's dig in. One of the things that I would just mention is there will, and I think Councilman Wobser hopefully is going to call for next Tuesday, a strategic planning committee meeting as well to discuss tax increment financing districts, which provide an ability for additional control. There is, I do have a number of proposals to talk about. I think the important thing is when you look at an economy, there are jobs at a variety of price points. There's a variety of jobs at different skill levels. There's different jobs. And the businesses that we are bringing in have positions that are line workers. You have positions that are management. If you recall, with Sheets, our most recent development, they're going to be at $58,000 and above. They're bringing in people. They have benefits. These are not just willy-nilly positions. So yes, we need warehousing because it helps support the investments that our other businesses are making, because they can't make product if they don't have somewhere for it to be warehoused. there is a variety of things we can do, and there's a variety of things looking forward that we can invest in, and I'm not at liberty to say some of the things that we'll be discussing, but I agree we need to bring in higher paying jobs, but that also doesn't discount those other positions that are jobs that people are interested in and are skilled for and are able to fill. And yes, you know what? The immigrant problem across the United States, they're going to take positions that are open, but I think that that is a small piece of the overall picture of the community that we're building. And people are entitled to disagree, but I think in the long run, we'll see how it works.
Mr. Wobser.
I'd like to call an appropriations committee meeting. I know we had originally talked about the 8th. I know Councilwoman Frischie cannot make the 8th. Is that correct, Holly? I'm not good on the 9th. How's the rest of the committee looking on the 10th? No? 11th? I know you are. That's a good day for you. Friday the 11th, Holly? Mr. Greeno is good. Homer? Beth? Are you good on the 11th? I would say, I don't know. You guys want to get it done earlier instead of later?
The only thing I would note is that we currently have, are you still able to do the 5 or 5:30 strategic planning committee meeting? Because we have Andrew Brossart, the municipal financial advisor, planning to come for strategic planning.
Is that on the same Friday?
That was on the Tuesday, the 8th. So I just had appropriations and strategic planning back to back, which I can see if he's available. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Not for appropriations,
No,
but
that
for
was for
strategic planning.
strategic
So I'm just-
planning.
I don't mind if you do
No, I'm
appropriations
glad.
on
Thank
Friday,
you, Mayor.
but
You're right. I didn't, I forgot to put that on my calendar. Yeah, I think we need to have that because getting Andrew there seems to be the problem, or not the problem, but the harder getting. So we'll continue with that. Let's look at appropriations and on Friday. Can we do it mid-afternoon, ladies, gentlemen? Okay, let's say 3 o'clock. Get it done, Mayor. Is that good?
Yep.
Okay.
the ARPA.
ARPA. All right, so Friday, the 11th of October at 3 o'clock p.m. will be an appropriations committee, and we'll do that in the mayor's conference room on the 3rd floor, pending availability.
Are there new business?
Are you going to call strategic planning as well?
I'd like to call a strategic planning committee meeting. Was that 5:30, Mayor?
We have it at 5, but we can do
5 o'clock.
5:30 if that works better.
Let's say 5:30. Yeah, I was going to say, Josh, I don't know. 5:30 for strategic planning on the 8th at 5:30. And the topic there, Mayor,
Tax increment financing districts.
TIF districts.
Correct.
Thank you very much. I think that's all the meetings I need to have next week.
Ms. Frischie?
Circling back to the mayor's last comment before we went to scheduling meetings, you asked 2 questions: how to mitigate and how to simulate. And I think we're focusing a lot on the educational portion of the English and the cultural barrier of the language. But we, as city government, I think we lost our focus of what our responsibility is. And I told you this when we had a discussion after the last meeting. Our responsibility as city government is public safety. We don't have to target it specifically to immigration. There's problems that happen in this city every day that don't necessarily have to do with an immigrant per se. Yes, there's an influx in population, and we are having a lot of challenges. But we as city government, we as city council can be addressing some of this with our public safety and our safety services. And increasing public safety would be increasing our police force, and that's something we have the ability to do going into budget season, and having more officers on the street so that we're being more proactive instead of reactive. The same thing when we're talking about hotels and how many people are in a room with fire safety. And if we are seeing people that are uncomfortable and they are not feeling safe in our community, we're not meeting that benchmark for our citizens. And that's what we can be addressing. You can keep having your immigration task force meetings. There are purposes for those groups, but our purpose as city government, we got to change hats and we got to look at public safety as a whole. And that is something I'm really hoping that you're going to be addressing and increasing on our budget. And I think if you're not, the city council needs to help encourage you strongly.
Mayor?
I would love to know specific actions that you believe are not being taken by our safety services at this point in time, because I'll just leave it there, because as we are working with our team, with our police and fire, right now, they feel that they are able to meet the need. With our current staffing, with our current staffing plan, obviously, we have ebbs and flows because we've had a lot of babies on the department recently, so that does put some strain on the team. But I would like to know the specific things that you would expect from because just increasing headcount does not necessarily mean that we are addressing a concern that you're.
So
Frischi?
I don't think anybody running our fire chief, police chief are gonna say that they can't work within the means that you're giving them. But we have had a police complement since the mid-'80s. That was 63, 67 officers. We continued to annex property into the city of Findlay, and we can continue to increase our population because of the way economic development is operating. And because we are not addressing the economic development situation in our community with low-paying jobs that we cannot fill, and we continue to turn our head and ignore that conversation, we are bringing more of a new population into our community. And you want to say that you're not part of that, but you are. Every time that we work to bring in another warehouse or a low-paying job, we're putting a strain on our current companies who made Findlay their home, and we are putting a strain on our public safety services. When I hear from people that go to a block watch meeting that our block watch officer is saying, whoa, we're in reactive mode, because they can't keep up, they need support. Crime has changed nationally since the 80s, and our community has changed. The types of crime that we've seen are not stealing a candy bar anymore. That's bigger things, and we have to be proactive, and we have to send a message in our community that if you want to come here and you want to live here and you want to work here, great, you better be a good community partner or we're going to help you move along.
Mr. Wobser?
How do we move those people along? Do we take them to the county line and tell them not to come back?
When you don't make things easy, Jeff, just like I can always remember Robert Sprague had, I think, some drug dealings going on over off of South Main for a long time. And the more proactive we are as citizens in our neighborhood, and we call the police and make them aware, those folks don't like the light being shined on them. And they move along. And if that's what it takes, I'm not saying you target anybody, because I'm talking about public safety as a whole.
Mr.
And if
Baumann? Sorry. You go ahead, Mr. Baumann.
I know some of the members of this body have their crosses of gold, but the unfortunate part about this whole conversation is that what it is developed into is a fear of the other. And
no, it hasn't.
That
Shame on
is
you.
the problem that we are facing. I think we continue to hear reports that from our police and our fire that this is not maybe the concern that we are making it into. And I think that gets very political. And that's all I have to say about that.
Ms. Mayor?
So, again, I completely take seriously the concerns that people have with how they feel in their community. I just don't believe that the solution is just increasing our police complement. So so I'm all ears, but because we are challenging, and I apologize because I know we all have, probably want dinner. I'm getting hungry. But I would just want to point out a couple things. Over the last 5 years, I've increased funding to the metrics unit, and we've seen great results. I've talked to the officers about adding additional canines. We work with, and I know a lot of these things are not things that you talk about because they're the things that I'm just doing as the mayor as part of my responsibility. And so I want to take this as an opportunity to share with you. There's also, I've also worked, we've talked regularly, and we've talked to you all that we look at our safety forces and the necessity of our head count as we annex, and when is that necessary? Annexing land doesn't mean we're annexing people. If you look at our populations, we've been relatively stable and have probably even gone down a little bit over the last 40 years. We have changed our staff structure so that we have more people in the higher time periods, in that late afternoon, early evening when people are going home. We have looked at optimizing our communication and dashboards so we have people positioned throughout town where we know it's higher incidence. We are working on establishing more block watch programs. We have done all sorts of things so that we can recruit more people. I don't want to get into politics, but who's the one that came to you all to say we have to find a new opportunity to put people in jail because our jail is shutting down half of it? And that's unacceptable because we should be handcuff county. I don't want people to come to our community and think they can get away with it. And I've been in meetings, I won't say which public official, but with a public official who said, well, we don't want to have to fund and put them in jail and pay for it, so let's just not catch them and let them go. No, that goes exactly. And I know that that's not what any of us want. So I am all ears on how we make sure that people feel our community is safe. Zoning enforcement, also an important part. Broken windows theory, right? We need to keep our communities safe. And part of that is making sure they're clean, making sure that we're fixing. So I am all ears if you think there are other things to do, and I'm happy to have the conversation. But public safety and public perception of safety is not solved by just adding more officers. And so if you have other recommendations on things we can do, I'm all ears.
Let's make this the final comment.
It is going to
Ms.
be the
Frischie.
final. I think we're not getting anywhere, but I think where I would like to see it go, I think we need to have a committee that's addressing public safety as our side and your side together, because we're not meeting the bar. When you say we're doing things, and I talk about all those things, our new K9 unit, our metrics when we do make a bust, but when we read the docket or we go to look on active inmates, we have a lot of folks coming into this town that are in our jail that we don't need here, and they're coming in. Our population's not growing, but when we're bringing companies in that we can't fill the jobs, people are driving into our community to work during the day, hopefully work and not do other things. So I'm not saying just police force. We could be addressing the fire safety in the motels. It's not safe for those people that have 12 to a room. We could be enforcing those things. There are things we can be doing, and I think we can agree on that. I really do. And nobody's saying that you're doing a terrible job on public safety, but we can do better. And we can change our priorities just a little bit because of what we are seeing in our community. So sit on that, think on that, work on putting a committee together between city council and the administration, and I think we can do great things together.
Last comment.
Yep, really final comment. One, the state fire marshal is the entity in charge of monitoring the hotels and motels. We have had multiple conversations with them. They have done inspections. They do not have violations. I know. I'm just telling you that's what they monitored. The second thing is, and I got to go back. Oh, yes, we have a major interstate running through our community, and our state highway patrol is probably the best in the state of Ohio. They are on top of it. So yes, people come into our community. If you have an idea on how we keep criminals coming to try to sell drugs out of our community, I am, again, all ears. But we don't have a wall to not let people that we don't want into our community. So personally, I don't feel bad if their tushy is in jail because that means we caught him off the street.
Okay, other new business. Mr. Niemeyer.
We decided on December 10th for the budget meeting. Can we set a time now?
Don't we normally start at 5 o'clock, 4 or 5?
I can do 5.
5 o'clock. We've got a little time to adjust that if needed, but let's tentatively pencil that in for 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
I'm sure the mayor will have to inform all the heads of all the departments. Any other new business? Mr. Niemeyer again.
I could make a motion to adjourn.
Well, we can't yet. We have an oral communication yet.
I'm sorry.
All right, good to know. So I have got a motion to adjourn by second, Mr. Baumann. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Any opposed, nay. We are adjourned.